His PhD degree in Mechanical Engineering from Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology, Patiala, India. He is Chartered Engineer by the Institute of Engineers, India and UGC Research Awardee. Currently, he is a professor at the Department of Mechanical Engineering, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Chandigarh, India. He has more than 20 years of teaching and research experience in production and in industrial engineering, with special emphasis in additive manufacturing, non-conventional machining, and casting. He has published more than 20 monographs, 80 book chapters, and 500 articles in journals and conferences, in which more than 250 articles are indexed in SCI. Is having H index of 31 and a citations of 3,626 plus. Thank you, sir, for being here with us. So you can share your screen now.
Can you see this PPT?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, it is audible. You can.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. First of all, good afternoon to all of you. And I'm thankful to Dr. S.K. Singh for this joint program, which is being run as a joint program between NITR Chandigarh and GRITE Hyderabad. This 1 hour session, I will be talking about some properties of thermoplastic with a characterization. Specifically, we will be talking about the rheological, mechanical, thermal, morphological properties. Like in last 3-4 days, we are on different aspect of characterization. So here the discussion part will be mainly on the characterization of the 3D printed parts. So you all know that 3D printed is nowadays the talk of the town, and people use this 3D printing in a big way for different applications. And the application range is really large in a way that it has been like a way of life in biomedical, in conventional mechanical manufacturing, in structural engineering, in typical mechanical engineering applications. So before actually talking about the characterization part, I will be sharing some of the basic ideas of the 3D printing, and then I will specifically shift to the thermoplastic, and then I will talk about the concept of recycling, and side by side I will talk about these type of different type of the philosophies for the characterization, right? So this is the basic idea as the historical development we are talking about. So you can see this. This is from the Chang and Chua paper, and if you see as a basic idea of 3D printing, as per the literature, it is reported that the mechanization started something around 1770. Then the first computer was there, something in 46. Then first NC machine around 52. First laser in 60. First robot in 61. Then at 63 we have a CAD interactive graphics system, and it is reported that the commercial RP system started its journey from 1988. So since 1988, a lot of things are happening in the area of the 3D printing. Just for the beginners, this rapid prototyping is divided into the 3 categories. One is the additive part, second is the subtractive part, and in between there is a combination of additive and subtractive. Right, in subtractive we are very comfortable as a typical mechanical engineer. We talk about the concept of machining, like we have a CNC machining. This is also a form of the rapid prototyping. Then in additive there can be technologies like a liquid based, there can be technologies like powder based, there can be technologies like which is the sheet based, right? So commercially, if I say the combination of all these three, this resulted into around 30 plus commercially available technologies. Now for today's discussion, we are basically focusing on some molten material which is based upon the extrusion process, and one of the low cost process, that is the fused deposition modeling, because this is specifically for the thermoplastic, and again we are interested in as a low cost solution. Before starting my this discussion, let me just introduce one thing. Uh, you see, in our daily life, a lot of things are happening specifically for the addressing the issues of the waste management. And when we talk about waste, the plastic solid waste is one of the major problem. And as per the literature, the management of the waste, which we call as the plastic solid waste, this is categorized into the four basic types. So it is called segregated as primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary way of recycling. Let me give you one simple example. Suppose I use some thermoplastic or a thermosetting material, and I am trying to recycle it mechanically. Like, one of the common thing can be, there can be a simple mixing using a extruder, right? So this may result into the formation of some wire form, which can be used as some feedstock filament or some other application. So if it is just using a mechanical way of mixing and I am using it for some typical application, we call it as a primary way of recycling. Then there is another classification which is we call as a secondary, which is again a we are using a mechanical means of recycling, but to add the property into the material, we add some sort of a reinforcement. So normally we talk about making some sort of a composite, like some of our friend was talking about some composite as regard to the metal or ceramic is concerned. Similarly, we have a polymer matrix composite. Basically, it is out of the secondary way of recycling, right? Then there is a tertiary way of recycling. When this mechanical way of recycling is not giving us good result, I am interested in using some sort of a chemicals which can basically help in rearrangement of the carbon carbon chain, and finally I can, let us say, dissolve some material, some polymer material, and I can make some amalgamation of it, and then I again re-extrude it. So that is basically categorized into the tertiary way of recycling. When all these three categories are not there, then there is another way of recycling that we call as the quaternary way of recycling. Basically, it is a energy recovery process. In typically developing countries like India, we are more focused about primary and secondary way of recycling because these are more cost effective process, right? So just whenever we talk about the characterization, we have to be very clear whether I am working on a primary way, I am working on a secondary way, I am working on a tertiary way, or I am working on a quaternary way. So I will be touching all these four for the better understanding to the audience, right? Okay, just for the beginners who are not that much comfortable in 3D printing, just one slide for an introduction to the 3D printing. So the basic idea is, let us say we have some CAD data, and this CAD file goes into some machine, which right now here looks like some photocopier machine, and we are calling it as a 3D printer, and I am getting the final object as a layer by layer. There is a deposition of the material. So I can explain it in a better way from this figure. You see, I have two nozzles over here. So from one nozzle, let us say some powder type material is being spilled out, and from the second nozzle there is a option for spilling of some binder, right? So I put some layer of powder, then layer of binder, layer of powder, layer of binder. So finally, what I am getting, a 3D object, right? So this was probably the one of the first process which was developed for preparing a 3D printed part, right? Of course, this is not the way the thermoplastics are being printed, but this was just for the initial starting understanding. This is one of the basic way how we can express the typical 3D printing process. Now I'm going to give you a simple idea, like how we can use it for some characterization purpose. Just see in this screen, we are having one component. This is a typical mechanical component which is used in the suspension system of the truck. So I have some CAD file. So this CAD file I am basically using to generate a STL file. So in typical 3D printing, it is said that all the commercial 3D printer, as per international standard, they are using the STL file format. One of the basic logic being given is that this file format contains maximum information at the lowest space. So as a thumb rule, as an international standard, we are basically adopting the STL file format for the printing of the component, right? So in this typical case, again you just see I have a powder which is in the loose powder form. then I just some ram is there, some roller moves, and I am getting a flat bed out of this. And this powder is basically a silica based powder, and I have a flat bed. Then there is a some sprinkling of binder. You can see some there is a binder sprinkling in a defined fashion on XY Cartesian coordinate system. Then I deposit another layer of powder, then I deposit another layer of binder, and finally I get some cavity which have been put over in this furnace for some sort of a post processing, right? So this is a one of the starting initial 3D printing process which has been developed by MIT and commercialized by a company in US called the Z Corporation, right? Now, you just see these cavities of some different wall thickness have been prepared. Now, I am interested in some cost reduction, and what I did is I spotted all these shells of different wall thickness in conventional sand casting in our typical engineering lab of the first year. We normally tell to the students, and then I pour the molten metal into it. So the normally these type of materials are good to withstand the temperature up to 1700 degrees Celsius, but as per the recommendation, normally people work for the low melting alloys, mainly up to 1000 degrees Celsius, and you can see the final component in the form of the casting is ready. I can make this component directly in a sand casting, but here I am getting what the idea is. If I am having some intricate shape, and I can club that shape by getting the accuracy from the 3D printer, and for the shell spotting purpose I am using a typical casting route. Right now, this is the final component, which is in the form of a functional prototype of different wall thickness. Wall thickness I am talking about the cavity wall thickness, and now it is ready to use product. Now see, if I am interested in the characterization here, what is important for me? First of all, the dimensional accuracy. Second, the mechanical properties, like how much Young modulus, how much modulus of toughness, these type of properties. Then their surface properties, like their surface hardness, maybe I can use HV, right? Then I'm interested in their surface finish, right? And of course, if I am interested in their strength, I have to correlate it with the microstructure, right? So I have to see whether under these conditions I am getting some dendrite while casting solidification, or I am getting some equix grain, or I am getting some honeycomb structure. So typical in these type of processes, when we have a starting process of 3D printing, we normally, to reduce the cost of the process, we try to have a combination of conventional manufacturing processes with the 3D printing processes, right? But from the characterization point of view, again, the mechanical properties, morphological properties, like their porosity, right, their inclusions, their voids, these type of things, then their surface hardness, right? So these type of things are important. So this is the one basic idea that just I want to give to the just the beginners, that 3D printing can be with the powder form also. It is not only that it will be with the thermoplastic, but of course thermoplastic is the cost effective one. So we start with this, right? So just for the beginners, one must understand the starting process was with the powder based technology. Now we focus our discussion on the thermoplastic only. So one of the basic process which is basically one of the now commercial process, and the cost of the machine is very simple. The name of the process is the fused deposition molding. So you can have this type of setup at very less cost, even less than 10,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees in your workshop itself, and you can make it on any vertical milling machine. So just for the beginners, again, the idea is I am having some thermoplastic based wire. You can see in this diagram there are two wires. One is of the dark blue color and another is of the sky blue color, and these wires are being forced into some section. Like this is here basically a heating chamber. You can see over here, in this case I have some drive wheels which move these wires, and then it enters into some sections where there is a arrangement for some heating, and on the other side the dia of the wire is coming out to be less. So normally for the commercial printer, whenever we use a thermoplastic based material, like there is a wide range of thermoplastic like ABS, HDPE, LDPE, polyamide, then PEEK, polyether ketone, PEC. So there is a range of thermoplastic available. And the initial dia normally is high. Once it comes out of the nozzle, the dia is basically reduced. So I can say for the commercial manufacturer, for the 80% of the time, the inlet dia is in the range of 1.75 mm. So once it comes out of it, the dia is around 0.8 mm. So I put the and this is in the semi-molten stage, and this deposited the material layer by layer on this platform. Now you may have a question why we have a two colored wires over here. The basic idea is this, let us say I am interested in some complex shape and some spot is required. So we use two different grades of the thermoplastic. So the thermoplastic which is water soluble, that is like put here in the sky blue color. So whenever I will have a part final with me, I will just immerse it into the water. So the water soluble thermoplastic will dissolve and I will have a final shape of the cavity. So there can be a different class of the thermoplastic, oil soluble and water soluble. The basic idea is I am trying to provide some support specifically for the some cantilever type structures. So this is the basic setup. Anybody can make it. Even many kits are also available. You can directly install on your vertical milling machine, and this basically process has made a revolution in the area of the 3D printing. And nowadays people talked about making this type of like benchtop based model of the 3D printer, and you can use it for n number of applications, right? So I'm going to explore all the four type of recycling, primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary, using this setup, and I will talk about the characterization for all cases side by side, right? So this is one example I am taking. Suppose this is a implant in which I am interested to fabricate. Commercially, these type of biomedical implant, like this is an example of a hip joint. I am interested to make it either of the stainless steel or of the stainless steel 3160 or ICL4. In this particular example, we are here making it for the stainless steel 316L. So again, the CAD data as per the customer requirement, right? So then converting it into the STL file. So you can see this was made on the Stratasys US based 3D printer, and finally I am able to generate some polymer parts, and I am joining it with the tree, and this tree is basically a used for the investment casting purpose. Now you see here what I am going to do is I have selected a particular grade of thermoplastic, which is an ABS, which is going to be printed at the temperature something around 300 degrees Celsius, right? So from that extrusion head, this thermoplastic is going to be like deposited layer by layer, and finally there will be a final part like you can see here. Then I have this down screw, and I have this tree, and finally this has been assembled by using a glue. And then what I'm doing is I am putting a stucco coating over here, like in case of a typical investment casting application. Then I am heating this whole section so that the thermoplastic is drained, right, in the gaseous state. So this is what I am using it as an energy recovery. So this is a quaternary way of recycling, right? So once I have a cavity ready with me, I will pour the stainless steel 316L, and you can see this is the final cast that is available for us, right? Now you can see there is one example for using this master of the wax based, then of the ABS based, and then using ABS and wax based patterns. Like, so people have worked on some optimization, some micro hardness value, then their microstructure analysis has been made just to know that which particular combination, whether it is of the wax is giving good, or whether the combination of wax or this ABS is giving good, or the ABS is giving good. So one of the basic advantage that we observed in this particular case was the hardness was maximum in case of the wax, but once we used the combination, we were able to reduce the cycle time. How? Let me explain from this figure. You can see here is there is a stucco layer that has been deposited over it. So once we have to go for the dewaxing stage, once we were using this investment tree under the dewaxing, we have to put around 7 layers, right, along this casting, right, along this master pattern. Whereas when we were using the ABS pattern, we were able to do it with the 5 number of stucco layers. So each layer around saves around 4 to 5 hours. So that was the saving in another way. Along with this, there was one disadvantage. Once we were using a pure wax based pattern, we were able to drain it at around 250. Once I am using a ABS based pattern, I have to drain at around 1050. So again, that becomes an energy intensive process. So we have to select a particular grade of thermoplastic once I am using a replacement. So for that, I have to do some different type of characterization. Of course, once I am having a final part with me, again I am interested from the characterization part, their mechanical properties, their surface properties, their dimensional features, their in vitro and in vivo analysis, whether I can use directly. And similarly, in the previous stage, when I am using this master, I am interested in the surface finish, surface accuracy, dimensional accuracy, hardness also. So different stages, different type of characterization is required, right? So from this example, what I want to show over here is the process capability was found, and it was observed that the process was highly statistically under statistical control. Now these two examples I have specifically quoted to express that once I am in the area of thermoplastic, I have to be very much sure whether I am interested in accuracy, whether I am interested in surface finish, whether I am interested in like there should not be not any inclusion. Like in the example just we have seen, I am interested in making an implant in which there should not be any sort of a contamination, because it has to be put into the human body. So once I am using a thermoplastic based pattern for that, so the whole under the dewaxing stage, the whole material actually coming out in the gaseous form. So there was no contamination in that, right? So that is the one advantage we see once we use these type of energy intensive process. Now I am going to explore one another way that is of course is very important from the management of the agriculture waste point of view. So you can see here what I am trying to do is I am using a secondary way of recycling, and in this particular example I am using a ABS and polyamide, and these two thermoplastic are being reinforced with the agriculture waste, and we have selected the banana fibers, and I am interested in their thermal, mechanical and morphological properties. Actually, once we were working on the different class of the thermoplastic, what we observed that there is a problem in the typical agriculture sector, depending upon the different geographical locations where you have to see that what type of agriculture waste is available. So one of our supplier at that time, he was from Jalgaon in Maharashtra, and they are having a lot of abundant availability of the banana fibers, and I was just surprised to know that the cost was around rupees 100 per kg, and 1 kg is very voluminous. So we can prepare a lot of polymer matrix composite out of it. So in this particular example, for the different type of agriculture waste, we can see, I'm going to show how we can use it for a suitable polymer matrix composite, and that can be used for the 3D printing, and then we will do some sort of a analysis. And this is the part of the secondary recycling, right? So what we have done in this case, we selected the ABS and polyamide, two different thermoplastic, and these were primary recycled. Again, why primary recycled means there was a no reinforcement. Now once I will put reinforcement into it, it will become a secondary recycled material. And for this study, a twin screw extrusion process has been used. So what is a twin screw extrusion? We have the two screws which are intermeshing, and the material is being forced because of the movement of these screw into the die, and finally I am getting a feedstock filament which is in the form of a wire, and that feedstock filament has been used on a commercial open source FDM system without any change in the hardware or the software of the system, right? So for this particular example, we have selected the banana fiber of 1000 micron length, dia around 100 micron, and there is a very beautiful paper by Bahrain et al, in which for the lab scale development, they have given a complete procedure how to prepare the banana fibers. So in this case, we have selected the maximum reinforcement as 5%, just for the comparison purpose. By 5%, that I will just explain. So you can see here, This is the glimpse of the twin screw extruder. This is a benchtop model. So I can put the material with some hooper over here. Here is a intermeshing screw, and in this section there is some intermeshing, and from this side I'm getting a feedstock filament, and that wire is fed into a open source 3D printer over here, and finally I am getting a whatever the 3D printed parts we require. So we printed the part for tensile, flexural, compressive as per the ASTM standard. Like you can see in this picture, the best wire we obtained at 230 degrees Celsius temperature of the extruder with nozzle dia 1.5 and torque around 0.1 Newton meter. And this is the standard mentioned as per ASTM D63 Type 4 standard. And we prepared the tensile samples, and then we did some on UTM. We try to measure their tensile properties, right? So here is something maybe new for some of us. Here I am interested in the first of all is thermal characterization. So whenever I am interested in using some secondary recycled polymer, I have to see whether it is a thermally stable or not. Let me give you one example. Suppose you have one bucket in your bathroom, and you can see, well, imagine that that bucket long lasts for a good period of time, maybe 1 year or 2 years. Now the same company, same brand, and same composition material, if you just take that bucket in the open atmosphere, maybe extremely high temperature or extremely low temperature, you will observe there will be a cracking in that thermoplastic bucket, right? So the idea is we must understand, once we will have a different heating cooling cycle, how much energy my material can absorb once I give the heat input into it. So how much energy it will release once there will be a cooling cycle. So this we do a thermal characterization using a setup called differential scanning calorimetry. So you can see on this, along the x-axis, you can see over here, what I have done is I have raised the temperature from room temperature to 250, and then from 250 to room temperature, then again from room temperature to 250, then again 250 to room temperature. And you can see on the same axis you have a time also. So the whole cycle was allowed to run for the 85 minutes. Like most of the thermoplastic that we work, they are in the working in the range of up to 300 degrees Celsius temperature. So depending upon the application, you can select a particular range of the thermoplastic material, and you can see how this material behaves in a particular heating cooling cycle. Now you can well imagine on this curve, on this y-axis, we have an energy absorbing capacity. You see, once I am having a single material ABS, which was the primary recycled, so the maximum peak temperature it was able to take was 190, right, in the first cycle, and in the second cycle again it was in the range of 190. So what observation I am getting, in these two consecutive cycles, the material is considered to be a thermally stable, right? Whereas once I will add 5% banana fiber into it, the heat capacity property was increased, right? I can get it in the form of a joule per gram also, right? So what you can see as a thermal characterization, if I make a composite in which a composite wire in which the thermoplastic of ABS has been reinforced with the agriculture waste, which in this case is a banana fiber, there is an increase in the heat capacity. Similarly, for on another thermoplastic, which is polyamide, which is a one form of nylon, polyamide 6, you can see again in the first cycle, uh, uh, they can absorb around the temperature, it can manage up to 217. Then in second again in the same range, and once it was there was addition of the banana fiber, so its heat capacity or the maximum which can has been increased. So this gives us a motivation. Of course, we must study this in form of joule per gram, how much energy it can absorb in heating and cooling cycle, whether this is a thermally stable material or not. So once we have to go for a thermoplastic based composite, so one of the basic characterization is the thermal characterization, and I have to see how this material will behave in different cycle. So in this particular example, I have shown you only 2 cycles, and but as per the ASTM standards, it is recommended that minimum 3 cycles repetition we must do, and we must see how many number of cycles this material can withstand. I can give you one example. Let us take us say the bumpers of our car, nowadays they are made up of the thermoplastic material, right? You can see any material that comes to you with this test, you can see for how many number of cycles this will going to be behave as regard to its thermal stability is concerned. And you can even calibrate whether you are working on a virgin material or you are getting a recycled material, because commercially in country like India there are a very less number of manufacturers. Like for the commercial ABS or the polyamide, you will get either from Gujarat Fertilizer or from the Reliance, etc. But for the recycling part, there are n number of suppliers, and the cost reduces sometimes up to 100 times less, right? So most of the time, whenever we have to use it for the commercial application, we used on normally the primary recycled material. So once you have to make the composite as the first step of characterization, I must see what type of behavior it is going to give me as a tool in the thermal characterization process, right? Then as a typical mechanical engineer, we used to measure it on the UTM. So you can see the peak load, the tensile strength, the Young modulus, with the addition of this agriculture waste, which was the banana fiber. You can see all these properties have been significantly improved. Like you can see the peak load, then peak strength. Similarly, the elongation behavior, all these things have been improved. Then once again, I am interested in the morphological characterization. I must take their microstructure, and I can see the percentage of the white present. Again, there is a standard for this. You can use ASTM B276 standard for the porosity analysis, and you can see using a simple optical microscope, and you can take the image at 100x using a SEM also, and you use then ASTM B276 for checking the whites and the percentage porosity. And you can see once we use this agriculture waste as a reinforcement, you can see in case of primary recycled ABS, there was a lot of porosity as a 3D printed part, and once I have a reinforcement, the porosity value was significantly reduced. Similarly, for other grades of thermoplastic, you can have your own study. So this is the one typical example where I can use any typical agriculture waste material depending upon your geographical location, blended it in the thermoplastic, and I can prepare a feedstock filament, and then that feedstock filament is put it into the 3D printer, and that can be used for some useful application. There are number of papers in which people have used rice based agriculture waste, wheat based agriculture waste, bagasse based agriculture waste, and different fruit based agriculture waste for different applications. And of course, it depends upon the particular geographical location, what type of agriculture waste is available at that particular location, right? So that can be one of the wonderful thing, that you are using agriculture waste and making it as a secondary recycled product, right? And that can be used for the 3D print. Here I am going to explain you with another example. Here you can see I am interested in making a energy storage device, again from the by the recycling of the thermoplastic, right? So what actually energy storage device here we are making is, we are interested in making a small battery which is in the form of a cell. In our local language we call it as a pencil cell. And you see in normal, in common all houses, we have number of wall clocks, or then we have a television, and everything is now television, or your this air conditioning, everything is operating through the remote only. So we need a battery, we need a cell. So we can make one household cell or a battery of A4 size using this waste thermoplastic, and we are getting some typical advantage out of it, and I will show how this characterization is going to help us. So just for the beginner who don't know how the cell work, it basically consists of the 4 zones. So we have a chemical or salt in the form of MnO2, then we have a zinc chloride, then I have a ammonium chloride, I have a graphite, and their combination is basically giving me a output in the form of a chemical reaction, which gives me something as a output in the form of a 1.5 volt. So what we actually did in this case is, we selected a primary recycled ABS, and we collected the granules of those ABS, and then we selected all these reinforcements of MnO2, zinc chloride, ammonium chloride, graphite in the powder form, and then we blended in the extruder, and then we prepared the wire, and then we printed on the 3D printer, and then we assembled in series. And what we observed that with this we can reduce the waste by 40%. And secondly, another important observation we made out of it was this zinc chloride section is actually getting consumed. So what we did is we assembled it in the form of disc. So once a particular section is not working or it has been consumed, just replace that disk and do the assembly, and I can use it for n number of cycles. So here we understand the basic concept of rheology first, because one of the target with us for today discussion is the rheological characterization. So for the basic rheological characterization, I use a setup called belt flow index. So you can see the picture for this. This is also called a MFI. This is as per ASTM 1238D standard. So what actually it gives, this I put some material over here, right, in the form of granule form. Then I have a control of temperature, and I can put some load in on this piston, and finally some wire out of this die is coming, and I am measuring how much gram per 10 minute is the flowability, right? Now you can see this. What we did is I selected this ABS as the basic matrix, right? So ABS as a thermoplastic was selected. Then I put some graphite, I put zinc chloride and ammonium chloride in the powder form, and MnO2 in the powder form. So once it was 100% ABS, the MFI was 9 gram per 10 minutes. So how again actually we measured, we selected a particular grade of ABS, right? So this is very common thing. You must understand, whenever you go in the market for purchase of any thermoplastic, and you are interested in making this thermoplastic filament usable for 3D printing, you must ask the supplier that I am interested in the extrusion grade of material. So it should be there are different grades. Only extrusion grade material can be used on the FDM setup, because the principle of working is on the basis of the extrusion. So some other grades, they are not good for extrusion, they are for some other filming application, right? So you must select a extrusion grade of thermoplastic, right? So I put some thermoplastic over here, I put some load, some wire is coming at a particular temperature. Now you can see here there is a temperature setting of around 230, the load is around 3.2 kg. So some wire, how much gram in 10 minutes it is coming out, so that is basically called as its MFI. Now you can see in this particular example, so once I have a composition of ABS and graphite as 90:10, means 90 gram by weight ABS and 10 gram by weight I am putting this graphite, the MFI value was coming around 2.51, right? So once I have a similar ratio for zinc chloride and ammonium chloride, it was coming out to be 6. And once I have a this for MnO2, this was coming out to be 8.5. Now if on a my 3D printer, I will use this composition of 90:10 with 3 different material, then for every wire, I have to change my settings on the machine, right? So I have to play with the hardware part, right? So that is actually not good for getting a final good. So what we did another composition study, then we selected for 80:20. You see for this, it becomes 1.62. For some other salt, it becomes 3. For some other proportion, it becomes 7. So we played with different weight proportion, and we come up with within some range. Like if I work 60:40, it will be 2.46 for this combination, it will be 2.5 for this, and 2 for this. Then I can select 60:40 for this, then let us say 65:45 for this particular combination. Now once I have a MFI in the common range, right, then there will be a uniform flow of the material. So this MFI is basically for the thermoplastic is considered as the one of the rheological property of that material. This basically ensures how easily the material is flowable in a particular section, right? If it can, I am interested in very thin section, right? So if the MFI is more, I can prepare the thin section. If MFI is less, I cannot prepare the thin section. It has to be thicker section. So once I have a particular establishment of their MFI, then with a common selected proportion, I will print. You can see some discs are being printed, and you can see here the assembly. And now this assemble part is supposed to give me the desired output as a use of my thermoplastic material, right? So we did it, and we did one assembly like this, but unfortunately we are not able to get the output in the form of the voltage. So we were little disturbed. So suddenly we got an idea that there may be some hindrance in the flow of the charge, because resting is common, that is in the conventional cell, right, or the conventional battery. So what we did, we took a acetone, because acetone can dissolve the ABS, and we just pour the acetone on this, and then we measured the voltage, and to our surprise we were able to get a consistent 1.5 volt as an output, right? So this is really good. Now you see, if the whole assembly is in the form of disk, so if one particular disk is consumed because of the transfer of the electrons or the flow of the charge, as a typical mechanical engineer, I can just open it and I can assemble that particular disk, and my assembly is supposed to give me again the similar voltage. Again, from the typical mechanical engineering point of view, we measured their mechanical properties using a standard tensile compressive specimens. Now this is really important. You see this curve here, you are observing again the thermal based characterization. Now you can see the thermoplastic material that we are now getting is really stable for you can see around 98 degrees Celsius temperature under different conditions. Like for MnO2, this was stable up to 98. For graphite, it was stable up to 95, and for zinc chloride up to 112. Now, our commercial cell, they are not operable at such high temperature. Now, since it has a casing of ABS, which is going to be in the gaseous state at 1000 degrees Celsius temperature, but this combination at around 95 degrees Celsius temperature is giving me good output in the form of voltage. Similarly, we did the similar study at sub-zero temperature, and what we observed, even at minus 25 degrees Celsius temperature, this is giving me good voltage. Otherwise, our normal batteries, they are not workable at such low temperatures. So again, what is the advantage we are getting? One is we are consuming the plastic, and what we observed in this work, we are able to consume up to 40% of the thermoplastic material, and of course it was workable at very high temperatures. So this is the another thing that I want to share with you. Now you see this example. First we talk about the quaternary way of recycling, in which we use the energy recovery. Then we see the agriculture waste reinforcement, then making the use of thermoplastic for some energy storage device, and the characterization again rheological, mechanical, morphological for different type of aspect. Now this is a something recent advancement. Now just imagine our physics class, maybe 11th class or 9th class. You see there is a one common experiment. If there are two current carrying wires carrying current in same direction, there will be a attraction, and if there will be a carrying current in a different direction, there will be a repulsion. So we use the same thing for these thermoplastic material for some magnetic characterization. We are interested now in 4D properties. 3D we are now comfortable. Now let us have one 4D property. So what we did, we selected a different range of thermoplastic like nylon, PA6 or ABS, and we put a layer of non-conducting, then we put a layer of conducting, and then again a layer of non-conducting, then conducting, so multiple layers. To make it conducting, we basically added the graphene into it using a blending procedure that I have already explained using a twin screw extruder. Now you can see if I pass the current in the same direction, so there will be a north and south, so there will be a compression, right? And if I change the direction of the current, so there will be a repulsion. Now this principle has been used to develop our own household transducer. Let me show you one video for this, just 1 second video, so that we can see how this transducer is working with the change in the magnetic field. So this transducer now has a n number of application which is otherwise available using a piezoelectric based crystal. Now we can use it similar from the base thermoplastic as a reinforcement of graphene. So this is the one thing that I want to show you as a recyclable thermoplastic for the application in the transducer. Now let us have one more example for the recycling. I think most of us being from the mechanical side are comfortable with this setup. This is one of the USM setup in which we have a transducer over here, right? And it is used for machining of the hard and brittle materials. And we have a tool over here, and we have a workpiece over here, and there is a no contact of the tool and workpiece as a conventional process, right? And then there is some slurry, and that is basically allowed to move between this section, and these slurry particles, when they comes in contact with the tool, which is moving at high frequency with very small amplitude, right? And there is an increase in the momentum. Normally, as per literature, it is said that the momentum will be increased by 1.5 lakh times, and there is a erosion, and we get a output. So this is a conventional USM process. Now, what we can do as a modification in this is the hybridization of this process with this thermoplastic. So what the idea is, this a tool uh, that is has been used over here. This is a tool, right? So what the idea is, now here this whole part is not of a metal but of a thermoplastic, and I have made it on 3D printing setup with three zones, right? In the initial zone, there are the coarse grains of alumina reinforced into PA6 or ABS. Then in the middle zone, there are medium sized grains of alumina. Then in the last zone, there are very fine grains of alumina. Now just imagine, once this tool is going to use for the drilling operation, because of the presence of initially entry coarse grain, then fine grain, and the finest grain, there is a combination of broaching with drilling, right? So this is what, this is the hybridization of the conventional non-conventional USM process with a conventional broaching process, right? Now what I am going to do the analysis over here is at what temperature this is going to give me very good result for the for the broaching operation. In a single stroke, I am going to get a very high surface finish, right? So I have to do again from the same start. First the rheological part of that particular section, then I have to go for the mechanical part, so that this should not fail. Then of course I am interested in the dimensional accuracy of the hole. So this is another example where we can combine this technology of rapid prototyping or the 3D printing for the thermoplastic with the conventional machining process, and you will see there are number of advantages with this, and your basically cycle time is reducing into this. Now I'm going to give one more example for this. For a typical thermoplastic, once we use the 3D printing, there is a problem that normally the nozzles are of the circular shape. So once we have a printing, the output comes out into the some elliptical shape. This is basically called the Baru effect, right? So once we have a stacking of layer, you can see over here one layer deposit, then there is a second layer. So there is a in between, there is a gap, right? So this basically led to the staircase effect, and there is a compromise on the surface finish of the component. Now we have a idea. Let us solve this problem by using this Baru effect only. So what the idea is, in place of taking the nozzle of this shape, let us have the nozzle of this shape, like I have a convex contour over this. So once, because of the Baru effect, the material comes out, so it makes a triangular shape, right? Right now, for this purpose, I have to again do the rheological analysis, because I know the more the rheology, more the MFI, more will be the flowability, right? So I will be able to make the thin section, right? So for a particular one of the project that I can do at my lab level is, for a different classes of the polymer, I can see what is going to be the effect on the cavity, and how much swelling it will be going to be there, and I can accordingly change the design on this, right? So I put a deposition not in the elliptical form, but in the triangular form. Then in the second layer, I change using a motor. I change the just the traction of the nozzle, and I put the replacement like the inverted triangles. Right now you can see there will be a less air gap, right? this is we got this idea from the color television. Once there was in mid 80s there was a technology by the company Sony. They call it as a Trintron technology. Earlier there used to be a pixel in the circular form, like what we have a silver screen, and then there is a bombardment of the electron from standoff distance, particular distance which we call as the standoff distance, and there is a formation of the pixel in the circular form, right? So the Sony come up with a technology which they call it as a Trintron technology, and they selected a particular angle at which there should be a bombardment, and secondly the particular standoff distance, so that the pixel should not be circular, let it be the triangular one. So it's the same thing we got over here, and we use here the Barrow effect to print the triangular like this, and you will be surprised that there will be improvement in surface finish without any post processing, even up to 60 to 70%, right? Now if you are interested in increasing the production, you can think of using the different shape nozzle, like one nozzle with circular shape and another with some this type of irregular shape. So once they will print, again they can have a printed section like this. So this is the beauty with the thermoplastic, that you can have a n number of combination which can be tried and explored for making different type of combinations together, and I can do their rheological characterization, I can do their mechanical characterization, I can do their thermal characterization, these type of things, right? uh, uh, just I want to show you some of the recent advancement in this, that we call is as the 4D properties. Like you can see from this example, suppose some thermoplastic material is in the state A, I give some stimulus to it, it is converting into the state B. Stimulus can be like in the form of current, it can be in the form of voltage, it can be in the form of magnetic field, right? Or it can be in the form of some moisture, it can be sound. You take the example of one sunflower. So the sunflower takes the shape, change the direction along as the earth is moving along the sun, right? So there is some stimulus which may be in the form of light. There can be more than one stimulus, so you can think of adding more than one stimulus in a controlled way. So and you can have a property like 4D, 5D. Nowadays people are talking about 9D properties. Basically we are adding more stimulus to get more type of properties, so that is more available specifically in the area of the thermoplastic materials. So you can think of recycling as well as adding some senses into this. So as I have explained, there can be different stimulus like light, current, voltage, electron, something like this. So again, you select a particular stimulus, you prepare, you find out their rheology, you measure their flow properties, and then you prepare the feedstock filament. Then you run it on the commercial FDM setup, and you can print this. Now I'm going to show you one example. In this, I have used PLA, PVC, magnetite, Fe3O4, and this wood dust as a combination, and we prepared the different composition. You can see in the different weight proportion, and we prepared some feedstock filament using some DOE, and we measured their magnetic properties. Here, actually, I am interested in making a smart tiles which can be used for the self-assembly purpose. So what we did, we selected a PLA, which is a biocompatible thermoplastic. Then we used a recycled PVC, which is used uh, uh, in the paneling of some like offices, cabins, and all. Then Fe3O4 for some magnetic properties, and wood dust for the thermal insulation properties. And we measured their magnetization property. And what we observed, that if I do for a multi-material blending and then I print the material, I am getting a respectable value of magnetization which can be used for the self-assembly purpose, right? So that can be one of the example. Again, some parametric optimization, I am just skipping this, some SAM analysis, some EDS analysis, and the basic idea is I can have a assembly of some thermoplastic. Like PLA is quite comfortable with human. I can put some PVC into it to add strength, then box, and then Fe3O4 magnetite, and then this wood dust for making a some smart material, which is basically giving me a 4D property, right? Again, from the characterization point of view, you can see once I have a different PLA, PVC in different proportion, I'm getting a different range of melt flow rate or melt flow index, and I can select for my particular composition which is going to be there for my multi-material and hybrid blend. I can think of its mechanical properties in form of peak load, peak elongation, break load, break elongation, then peak strength, something like this. I can find their modulus of toughness, then some stress strain curve I can see. Then for a particular application, whether it is going to be under impact loading condition or under some other different type of loading condition, I can select that, right? Again, the thermal characterization, the similar way I have explained, whether this material is going to be thermally stable under repeated cycle, I can see it in this thermal characterization, the magnetic characterization, and of course the final conclusion out of this, right? Before I end up my thing, I just want to show you one of the typical example that we are working over here. This is a special project under DST for the preservation of the heritage structure. Like what of the example I have shown you, this is a typical heritage structure we are working. Just see, suppose this side of the wall is accessible to me for some heritage building, and this side of wall is not accessible to me, and I am interested in filling the cavity over here. What I am trying to show is, if the cavity inside entry part and out other side is same, I can fill the material. But if there is a case when the entry is small and the on the other side there is a large opening, or there is an irregular shape, I need a smart material, right? So that particular example of characterization that I have given you with the magnetic material, we have developed a smart material. Once it has to be entered into this will be squeezed by changing the direction of the current, and then once it is entered, I will just change the direction of the current, and it will just take the shape of the cavity. We are working on some of the heritage site. This is as per the Punjab tourism area, so we are working on some of the bridges and some of the structures, monuments. There is a one example I have shown over here for the 3D printed part, then their thermal characterization and mechanical properties. Again, different type. I can show you one more thing. Like you can see in these type of bridge structures. Here, this side is under the compressive load, and the outer side is under the tensile load. So I can select a particular range of the thermoplastic material where if the inner side is having a better compressive property, I can select that, and on the other side, if there are the tensile property, I can accordingly select that. So in this particular example, we use some different type of thermoplastic with different type of reinforcement, and we were able to print them and then see their thermal characterization, that there's some tensile property based on mechanical characterization and their morphological characterization, and we try to understand which particular type of combination is actually better for these type of things. Then I can also think of putting some stimulus to see what is the effect of water, what is the effect of let us say temperature, what is the effect of the magnetic field on this type of materials. So there are thousands of applications. What we can see is this area is going to be there in a big way in coming 4 to 5 years, and this 3D printing will be called the 4D or up to 9D printing for in the coming future. I think I have the limited time. If there are any queries, I am open for discussion.